Hey guys, this will be my first video of my new IS300 build. I'm doing a 1JZ swap out of a JZS 171 Toyota Crown, and this is a 2001 chassis that's already been 5-speed swapped. And my original intention was to run both factory ECUs in tandem, which is why I chose the JZS 171 platform, because based off of my research online, the '01 chassis is actually fairly plug and play in regards to the engine harness and how it plugs into the ECU, and you can actually run an IS300, an '01 IS300 chassis harness, or I guess an '01 motor harness on a 1J JZS 171 and run the factory ECU, the 171 ECU, in tandem with your IS ECU. And then just basically run all stock factory settings. And I purchased a motor from JDM of San Diego. Never heard of them before, but they were the first hit on Google, and they had pretty decent reviews from what I saw. And then after I received the motor, I just started seeing like everyone going through the same motor importer, so online at least. So I'm fairly confident in this motor. Should be pretty good condition. Yeah, I just wanted to keep this video short. I could cram everything that I've done to make this happen into this one video, but I find that it's kind of annoying to have to try and find exactly what you're looking for out of a 45-minute tutorial when all you need is like 1 or 2 minutes of actual footage out of it. So I'm going to try and break down all of the different phases, I guess, of this build or of this swap, and make it a little bit more organized and easier to reference in that regard. So yeah, I just wanted to do a little intro video. I've kind of been doing this swap for actively, like in the doing the swap in the car. I've probably had about 3 weeks of work into it, waiting on parts and basically just kind of taking my time and putting a little bit of work into it, you know, a little bit here and there after work. The engine swap in general was actually very simple. I've never pulled the motor out before. I've never done a motor swap before, but the 1J fits in this chassis so well. I got the motor in by myself here in this garage, actually in the driveway right behind it, in about 45 minutes. I mean, I brought the car prepped from my shop. I pulled the motor and basically got it ready to start putting the motor in at my shop, so I didn't have to do it here in my garage, where it was a little bit more inconvenient with the space. So once I had the motor out and the chassis was prepped and ready, I trailered it over here, and the next day I had the motor in about 45 minutes. So the only real issues that I ran into, which you can't really see in this video because I've already fixed the problem, was the ABS block, which is now relocated in the battery tray. Normally sits right here on the shock tower. The lines usually run right here next to the shock tower, right along it, and as you can see, there's really not much space between the factory turbo and the shock tower, the frame rail. So when it came time to actually drop the motor into the engine bay, I was kind of running into issues. Nothing a load leveler couldn't take care of, but it didn't just slide right in. It took a little bit of finagling. Another issue I ran into was just the turbo housing itself. This is a VVT single turbo. I'm not sure how the twin turbo engine fits. I know that people have done both swaps with that issue, but from my personal experience, this is obviously a single turbo. The problem that I had run into was basically what I had done was I took the core support off, and I had the radiator and the AC condenser out. So basically everything was all open. I wanted to make it as easy as possible, but I still kind of ran into issues running into this spot right here, because the core support, where it mounts, it actually comes to about here where my finger's at, and so that little extra space really made a difference as far as like trying to slide it in. I found myself catching the side of the compressor housing, wanting to catch here, which I ended up kind of bending it out of the way. Nothing crazy. I mean, obviously you can't even tell, but I ended up bending both sides here and here just a little bit out of the way so that everything went in kind of smooth. And I was also, take note, I was on a driveway that's kind of slanted, so in relation to my level garage, and the engine hoist and the way I was putting it in might have also played a factor in that. But anyways, it went right in. I ended up using a jack, a low profile jack on both sides of the car to allow me to adjust the height and adjust the slant, so that way the motor would want to go in. And it took a little bit of adjusting in between sliding the motor in and out, getting it over the cross member and the steering rack. So I ended up pumping the engine up and down and changing the position of the load leveler to adjust the pitch of the motor back and forth to maneuver it in there. But like I said, by myself, under an hour. So it all went in pretty simple. I guess for those of you still watching, if you're this far into the video, I'll go over a slight brief description of what I've got going on. It's just a factory 1JZ. I did just basic maintenance on it, timing belt, serpentine belt. I did a 2JZ water pump upgrade. I did the drift motion lightweight pulley kit, as you can see there. Has a J-pipe delete, which you can obviously see. I found these 1-inch vacuum caps online. I don't know the website. I can look back, but I used this instead of, I've found people like using bottle caps and like plastic like detergent caps, and I'm not trying to do that. So I found these. They're 1-inch diameter and they fit right over the factory blow-off valve inlet perfectly. Obviously stock turbo, stock injectors. All I've done for fuel is my own fuel return, because obviously the factory IS doesn't come with a fuel return, so I had to plumb my own fuel return. But I ran that to a Walbro 255 fuel pump. And what else? Mishimoto, just a generic intercooler. Not sure what the dimensions on that are. I can figure that out right now. We're at 2.5 by let's see, from end tank to end tank, it's about 29 inches, 28 inches, and it's 6.25 tall. It's got 2 3/4 end tanks, so I had to use a 2 3/4 inch to 2.5 inch reducers to my 2.5 inch universal intercooler piping kit that I basically chopped down and plumbed myself. And then I just, at the shop, made this little piece of angle out of some 16 gauge steel that I had laying around. It's not perfectly straight, but it holds the intercooler up pretty nice, and eventually I'll throw some hardware through it because it's the Mishimoto intercooler has these nuts welded on the bottom. What else? ABS obviously relocated to the battery tray, and I have the battery relocated in the trunk. Right now the interior is pretty much stock and half together. I'm running a W55 factory IS300 transmission. Get the trunk popped open here. But basically there's the battery, and I just have this basic universal 2-gauge ground hooked up to the coilover where it passes through the shock tower. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm sure I'm missing some stuff. I didn't really plan out a script, but this is it. It used to have a walled kit, so the previous owner kind of hacked up the quarter panels, but I've got plans for that later on. Same with the wheels, they're just kind of on mismatched rollers to get it rollable. So yeah, it's my 01 1JZ build. I guess I'll be posting more videos soon of, like I said, each different phase to kind of give you guys a rundown of how everything goes together. And hopefully this will help you guys with your swaps and help inspire you, motivate you, or prepare you, I guess, for the actual journey ahead. So here it is.